Your mother disappeared. Who's going to pay the bill? Louisa's voice cut through the restaurant like a knife, freezing every conversation in the room. All eyes turned to our table, but I didn't look back. I just kept walking, purse in hand, past the glittering chandeliers and the stunned faces of 20 guests who'd come to celebrate a birthday that was no longer mine to save. I wasn't heading to the restroom. I was heading for the exit, where a taxi waited outside, engine running, ready to take me away from the chaos I'd left behind, a chaos that included a $450 check, my son Jamal searching for me in panic, and China's shrill accusations echoing through the air. But that night was only the beginning. Hours later, when Jamal finally stumbled into the living room at 2 a.m., he found me sitting calmly in my favorite armchair, 3 suitcases packed at my feet, and a folder of documents on the coffee table. I was waiting for them, just as I knew I would be. After years of being the convenient mother, the one who always fixed every mess, I had finally reached my breaking point. At 68 years old, I was done being invisible. I was done being used. And as Jamal's desperate cry filled the room, I realized something had changed forever. But to understand how I got there, you need to know the whole story, because this wasn't a sudden outburst or a moment of madness. It was the result of years of silent sacrifice, of loving too much and losing myself in the process. And what happened next would shock everyone, including me. It all started with a single phone call, one that seemed innocent enough. Jamal's voice on the line was warm, familiar, but carried that unmistakable edge, the tone he always used when he needed something. "Mama, I need to ask you an enormous favor. It's kind of urgent." My heart skipped. I braced myself for bad news, for some emergency only a mother could fix. But it wasn't an accident or an illness. It was just money. $500, to be exact. "We'll pay you back next month. Promise." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that this time, things would be different. But deep down, I already knew the truth. My Social Security check was barely enough to cover my own bills, but how could I say no to my only son? So I transferred the money, telling myself it was just this once. But it wasn't. The next month, it was another expense: air conditioning repairs, then a birthday, then a gift for Jamal's business partner, then their anniversary, then new furniture. Each request came with the same promise: "We'll pay you back soon." But the money never returned. Every time I tried to bring it up, Jamal's disappointment cut me to the core. "Mama, I thought you did it because you love us, not because you expected something in return." The guilt was crushing. I stopped asking, and they stopped pretending. The visits changed, too. Jamal only came by when he needed something. Chinas barely spoke to me at all. I was becoming a ghost in my own life, and I didn't even realize it yet. But the next request would push me even closer to the edge. One Friday evening, they showed up without warning, arms full of takeout bags and casual smiles. For a fleeting moment, I felt a spark of hope. Maybe they just wanted to spend time with me. But as they unpacked the food and settled in, it became clear this was no family visit. They devoured their meal, barely acknowledging my presence, talking about people and places I'd never heard of. I tried to join in, but my words fell flat, lost in the noise of their private world. Then, as the plate sat empty and the wine bottle, my wine, was drained, Jamal leaned back and delivered the real reason for their visit. "Chinas and I are thinking of taking a trip for our anniversary. We found an amazing all-inclusive package to the Bahamas, but we're short on the deposit. Could you help us out? Just $2,000. The number hit me like a slap. That was nearly 3 months of my pension, money I'd saved for emergencies, not luxury vacations. Chinas finally looked up from her phone, her eyes cold and expectant. "Don't you have savings? What's more important than your own son's happiness?" The words stung. I wanted to say no, to stand my ground, but guilt and habit won out. "Let me see what I can do," I whispered, already knowing I would give in. They left soon after, taking the leftovers and leaving the dirty dishes behind. That night, I sat alone at the table, staring at the empty plates and the empty space where my self-respect used to be. I transferred the money 2 days later, telling myself it was the last time. But deep down, I knew the cycle was only getting worse. And what happened during their trip would make me question everything I thought I knew about love and family. The week Jamal and Chinis spent in the Bahamas was a blur of silence and loneliness for me. They sent 3 messages in 7 days, one from the airport, one from the beach, and a final coming back tomorrow. That was it. No calls, no questions about my health, not even a simple "how are you?" I spent those days battling dizzy spells and high blood pressure, barely able to get out of bed. My neighbor Brenda, who barely knew me, was the one who drove me to the clinic. She asked, "Your son can't come with you?" I lied, saying he was busy, not wanting to admit the truth. I was utterly alone. When Jamal and Chinis finally returned, they didn't rush to see me. 2 weeks passed before they showed up, tanned and relaxed, dragging their suitcases behind them. "We're staying for the weekend," Jamal announced, as if my home was just another hotel. Chinis breezed past me, barely offering a greeting, and disappeared into the bathroom. I cooked for them, using the last of my groceries, hoping for a word of thanks or a sign of appreciation. Instead, I got complaints about the food and sighs about the lack of dessert. They laughed together in the living room while I washed their dishes in silence. That night, I overheard them whispering, "We need to be more strategic. We can't ask her every month, she's going to catch on." The words hit me like a punch. I realized, with a cold clarity, that I wasn't family to them. I was a resource, a problem to be managed. And as I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, something inside me began to break. But I still wasn't ready to let go. Not yet. The next request would finally force me to face the truth I'd been avoiding for far too long. 2 weeks of silence passed, each day heavier than the last. I waited for a call that never came, my phone lighting up only with spam and bank alerts. The loneliness was suffocating, but it was also a strange kind of relief. No new requests, no emergencies, just quiet. Then, out of nowhere, a text arrived. "Chinis' birthday is October 15th. We're celebrating at the Red Velvet Bistro at 8 p.m. Confirm if you can come." It wasn't an invitation. It was an announcement, a summons to play my part in their perfect picture. In the days leading up to the party, Chinis called 3 times, not to ask how I was, but to remind me about her gift. I have a wish list at Neiman Marcus. The things I like are between $200 and $300. She also suggested I cover drinks or dessert for the 20 guests. "It would be nice if you could contribute," she said, as if it were my duty. I wanted to say no, but the old habits were hard to break. I went to the store, picked the cheapest item on her list, a set of towels for $180, and wrapped it in gold paper, my hands shaking with anger and shame. The night of the party, I dressed in my best clothes and arrived on time, only to be ignored by everyone at the table. Jamal barely acknowledged me. Chinis opened my gift with a quick thanks, then moved on. When the check arrived, Jamal asked me to cover the extra $150. "We'll settle up later," he said, but I knew that meant never. For the first time, I refused. I stood up, walked out, and left them to face the consequences. That night, as I packed my bags and waited for them to come home, I realized I was finally ready to choose myself. And what happened next would. When Jamal and Chinis burst through my front door in the middle of the night, their anger filled every corner of the house. They demanded answers, their voices sharp with humiliation and disbelief. But I was ready. I sat calmly in my armchair, 3 suitcases packed at my side, a folder of documents on the table. For the first time, I didn't flinch. I didn't apologize. I simply told them the truth. I was leaving. Jamal's face twisted in shock. "Leaving? Where will you go? You have nothing." But I did have something, my dignity, my savings, and a plan. I handed him the papers showing I'd sold the house. The color drained from his face as he realized the safety net he'd always counted on was gone. Chinis' voice cracked with disbelief. "You donated the money? To a shelter?" "Yes," I said. Because I was done being used, done being invisible, done being the family's silent ATM. The argument spiraled, accusations flying. Jamal tried to guilt me, blaming me for spoiling them, for not setting boundaries sooner. But I stood my ground. "I'm not keeping score of the money," I told him. "I'm keeping score of the disrespect, the times you made me feel invisible. The silence that followed was heavy, but I didn't back down. I asked for my keys back, told them they had 2 weeks to collect their things, and made it clear, I was choosing myself for the first time in decades. As they left, Jamal warned, "You'll regret this. You'll need us." But I knew the truth. I'd rather be alone and at peace than surrounded by people who only saw me as a resource. That night, I didn't cry. I felt a strange, powerful freedom. For the first time, I was living for myself and I had no intention of ever going back. But the real test of my resolve was still to come. 6 months have passed since that night, and my life is unrecognizable. I live in a small apartment by the sea, surrounded by people who value me for who I am, not for what I can give. I work at a cozy bookstore, spend my evenings with friends who have become my chosen family, and wake up each morning with a sense of peace I never thought possible. Jamal calls sometimes. Our conversations are short, respectful, and for the first time, I set the boundaries. He sends photos of Zoe, my granddaughter, a reminder that life moves forward, and healing is possible, even if the past can't be erased. I don't know if we'll ever be close again, but I no longer need his approval to feel worthy. I finally understand that the most important love is the love you give yourself. If you're listening to this and see yourself in my story, know this, it's never too late to choose yourself. It's never too late to set boundaries, to demand respect, to walk away from those who only take and never give back. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is let go of what's hurting you and step into the unknown. Because real peace doesn't come from pleasing others, it comes from honoring your own worth. If my story resonated with you, let me know by liking this video and sharing where you're watching from in the comments. And if you're ready to hear more stories of transformation and second chances, check out the next videos on my channel. Remember, you deserve love, respect, and a life that feels like your own. Thank you for listening, and never forget, it's never too late to start over.